First strike. The Dominion warship Inevitable Victory hung in the darkness above Earth, its sleek obsidian hull absorbing rather than reflecting starlight. On the command deck, Fleet Commander Vexlar studied the blue-green planet with 6 cold, calculating eyes. Pitiful, he remarked, mandibles clicking with each syllable. Their technological advancement is centuries behind ours. They still burn fossil fuels. Yet they've achieved spaceflight and primitive AI, cautioned his second-in-command, Science Officer Thraz. Intelligence reports suggest they possess unusual qualities. Vexlar's upper limbs twitched dismissively. Every species claims to have unusual qualities before their conquest. The Arcturians had their telepathy. The Norvis had their regenerative abilities. What do these humans have? Emotions. He made a sound approximating laughter. Sir, Thraz hesitated, compound eyes reflecting the tactical displays. Our reconnaissance indicates humans possess an unusual physiological response to threats. They call it adrenaline. It temporarily enhances their physical capabilities. Yet another evolutionary quirk that won't save them, Vexlar replied. Has the targeting analysis been completed? Yes, Commander. Based on extensive study of 17 previous conquests, we've identified their primary vulnerability. Thraz brought up a holographic display. Humans invest extraordinary resources in caring for their young. They maintain specialized facilities called hospitals dedicated solely to treating immature specimens. Vexlar's feeding tendrils curled with interest. Fascinating. What percentage of their resources goes toward these non-productive members? Substantial, sir. And according to behavioral studies, humans demonstrate extreme emotional and protective responses toward their young. Our psychologists believe targeting these facilities will cause maximum psychological damage. Excellent. Vexlar's voice was cold and precise. We'll demonstrate our technological superiority and break their will simultaneously. Prepare orbital strikes on all major pediatric medical facilities. Begin with their largest children's hospital complex. Thraz hesitated again. Commander, respectfully, I should note that in all our previous conquests, we've never specifically targeted juvenile care centers. Our cultural analysis team suggests this may provoke an unpredictable response. Your concern is noted, Science Officer. Now follow orders. Yes, Commander. Thraz turned away, an uncomfortable sensation crawling through his thorax. The humans were an unknown variable. Their entertainment broadcasts showed a puzzling dichotomy. They seemed simultaneously capable of great kindness and terrible violence. Such contradictions made them difficult to predict. Weapons locked on Houston Children's Medical Center, announced the tactical officer. Particle beam charged at 100%. Vexlar settled into his command chair. Fire. From the underside of the Inevitable Victory, a beam of concentrated energy lanced down through Earth's atmosphere, striking the sprawling hospital complex with devastating precision. The shield generators the Dominion had expected, absent. The defensive countermeasures, non-existent. The particle beam sliced through the building's infrastructure like a scalpel through tissue. Direct hit, reported the tactical officer. Target neutralized. Multiple casualties detected. Excellent. Proceed with the global attack pattern. All pediatric facilities. Across the planet, beams of destruction rain down from space, targeting children's hospitals in major population centers. The Dominion forces watched dispassionately as their sensors recorded the destruction. Sir, the communications officer called suddenly. We're detecting an unusual surge in electromagnetic communications from the planet. They're organizing. Expected, Vexlar replied. They're attempting to coordinate their primitive defenses. No, sir. The pattern is different. The officer's antennae twitched nervously. It's not military chatter. These are civilians. Millions of them. And they're not panicking. They're mobilizing. Before Vexlar could respond, alarm signals flashed across the command deck. Sir, energy spike detected at multiple points across the planet's surface. Impossible, Vexlar hissed. Their technological database shows no weapons capable of. His words were cut short as the ship rocked violently. Emergency alarms wailed. "What was that?" he demanded. "Multiple kinetic impacts on our hull," reported the tactical officer, his voice rising in pitch. They've launched thousands of primitive rockets simultaneously. Damage minimal, but, sir, we're detecting more launches. They're using their entire stockpile of nuclear missiles, and they're targeting all 27 ships in our fleet simultaneously. Vexillar rose from his command chair. Impossible. Their psychological profile indicated they would be paralyzed by fear and grief. They should be surrendering, not attacking. The communication officer's voice cut through the chaos. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission. It's being broadcast on all frequencies, in our language." "How?" "Our first contact protocols haven't even." "Unknown, sir, but the message is repeating." "Let me hear it." A human voice, unnervingly calm and perfectly translated, filled the command deck. "Attention, invading forces. You have violated the most sacred principle of sentient existence. You have targeted our children. There will be no negotiations. There will be no surrender. You have awakened something you cannot understand. Humanity does not forgive. Prepare to witness the full measure of our wrath." The message cut off, leaving an eerie silence on the command deck. "Sentiment," Vexillar sneered, though his posture had stiffened. "Prepare the landing forces. We'll proceed with." "Sir," the sensor officer's voice cracked with alarm. "We're detecting thousands of smaller craft launching from Earth's surface. They're on intercept trajectories." "Military fighters." "No, sir. They appear to be civilian aircraft. Repurposed, loaded with explosives." Before Vexillar could process this information, another voice broke in. "Commander, we're detecting massive movement on the ground. All human military forces are mobilizing. But, sir, civilians are arming themselves. Millions of them." The science officer Thraz approached, his usual composed demeanor fractured. "Sir, I've been analyzing their communication patterns. Something fundamental has changed. Their normal social divisions, political, geographical, religious, they've vanished. They're unified. Completely." "Impossible." Vexillar hissed again, but with less certainty. "Sir," Thraz continued, "our cultural database shows humans have a history of internal conflict spanning thousands of years. They've never achieved global unity. Until now." Another violent shudder ran through the ship as more missiles found their mark. "Hull breach on Deck 7, shouted the tactical officer. They're ramming us with their aircraft." Vexillar stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Human civilians were piloting their primitive aircraft directly into Dominion vessels in suicide attacks. Military forces were launching every weapon in their arsenals simultaneously, and on the ground, millions were arming themselves, preparing for a ground invasion that hadn't even begun. "Sir," Thraz said quietly, "I believe we may have miscalculated." Down on Earth, in the smoking ruins of Houston Children's Medical Center, Dr. Sarah Chen pulled another child from the rubble. Her hands were steady despite the chaos around her, despite having witnessed the particle beam that had sliced through the hospital's east wing. "I've got a pulse," she told the paramedic beside her. "Get this one to the field hospital." As she turned back toward the ruins, her phone vibrated. The emergency broadcast system had been activated, not with evacuation orders as she'd expected, but with something else entirely. A voice, the president's voice, spoke with cold clarity. "Protocol Prometheus is now in effect." "I repeat, Protocol Prometheus is now in effect." Sarah felt an icy calm settle over her. Protocol Prometheus, the contingency plan for extraterrestrial hostility that most had considered theoretical. Until now. She tapped her phone, acknowledging receipt of the activation code, then pulled up the specialized app that had remained dormant on government-issued phones. As a chief pediatric surgeon, she was part of the response network. Her medical knowledge was about to be repurposed. Around her, she could see others. Nurses, doctors, first responders, checking their phones, their expressions hardening with the same cold determination. "They targeted our children," said the paramedic beside her, no longer looking shell-shocked but focused, dangerous. "Yes," Sarah replied, accessing the secure network that was rapidly organizing humanity's response. And now they'll learn why that was their last mistake. Humanity unleashed. Commander Vexlar struggled to maintain control of the command deck as the inevitable victory shuddered under another barrage of human attacks. The ship's advanced shields, designed to withstand weapons centuries beyond Earth's technological capabilities, were failing against the sheer volume of missiles, improvised explosives, and kamikaze aircraft. "How?" he demanded, mandibles clicking furiously. "How are primitive projectile weapons penetrating our defenses?" Science Officer Thraz, analyzing data streams with all 6 limbs moving across different consoles, finally looked up. "They're not using their weapons conventionally, sir. They've modified their nuclear warheads to detonate precisely at our shield frequency nodes. They're exploiting a vulnerability we didn't know existed." "That's impossible. They couldn't have analyzed our shield technology so quickly." "Sir," Communications Officer Kelva interrupted, "we're intercepting their communications. They've activated something called Protocol Prometheus. It appears to be a pre-existing contingency plan for extraterrestrial hostility." Pre-existing. Vexlar's primary heart chamber constricted. "You mean they were prepared for us?" "Not specifically for us, Commander," Thraz clarified. "But they've theorized about hostile alien contact for centuries. It's embedded in their culture, their entertainment, their military planning. They've been psychologically preparing for this moment for generations." On the tactical display, 5 Dominion vessels were already showing critical damage. The Relentless Harvest had gone dark entirely, its systems completely offline after being swarmed by thousands of small aircraft converted into remotely piloted bombs. "We still have technological superiority," Vexlar insisted. "Begin landing operations. Once our ground forces establish control points, these emotional outbursts will be contained." "Sir," Tactical Officer Morv said hesitantly, "the landing craft are reporting resistance before they even touch ground." "Explain." "The humans have converted their global positioning systems to guide their weapons. Our landing craft are being targeted the moment they enter the atmosphere. And, sir, they're using their own civilians as intelligence networks. Millions of them are tracking our movements with primitive optical devices and communicating coordinates." Another violent impact rocked the ship. "Status report," Vexlar demanded. "We've lost engines 3 and 4, reported engineering. Hull integrity at 64% and dropping. Sir, we need to consider strategic withdrawal. Retreat. From primitives." Vexlar's feeding tendrils twisted in rage. "Impossible." Thraz approached his commander, datapad in hand. "Sir, I've completed my analysis of human psychology based on their response patterns. I believe we fundamentally misunderstood their nature." "Explain quickly, Science Officer." "Humans appear to possess a psychological state we have no equivalent for. They call it righteous fury. When threatened, particularly when their young are threatened, they override all self-preservation instincts. They become something else. Speak plainly." "Sir, by targeting their children's hospitals, we didn't break their will as expected. We've unified them in a way they've never achieved in their entire history. Every human on the planet is now functioning as a collective defensive organism. They're willing to sacrifice themselves by the millions if necessary." As if to illustrate his point, the tactical display showed hundreds more civilian aircraft on intercept courses. "Sir," Kelva interrupted again, "we're receiving another transmission. Audio and visual this time." Without waiting for permission, she put it on the main screen. The image showed a human female in a white coat stained with blood. Behind her stood others in similar attire, their faces set with cold determination. "I am Dr. Sarah Chen. chief of pediatric surgery at Houston Children's Medical Center. She said, her voice steady despite the chaos visible behind her. You targeted a facility dedicated to healing the most vulnerable among us. In doing so, you've revealed yourselves as something we cannot permit to exist. She held up a data pad showing molecular structures. Your particle beam technology left traces of your energy signatures. Our scientists have already reverse-engineered your shield frequencies. Your biological samples from the debris of your destroyed vessels have given us your genetic structure. The camera panned to show other humans in laboratory settings, working with extraordinary speed and coordination. Humanity has spent centuries imagining how we would respond to hostile extraterrestrial contact. Dr. Chen continued. We've developed thousands of theoretical countermeasures. Now we're implementing them all simultaneously. She leaned closer to the camera, her expression terrifying in its calmness. You should know that I spent 20 years developing treatments to save children from terminal illnesses. I dedicated my life to preserving life. Now I'm using that same knowledge to ensure your species never threatens a child again. The transmission cut off. Biological countermeasures. Vexlar's voice had lost its commanding edge. They couldn't possibly. Sir, Thraz said quietly, human medical science is surprisingly advanced. They've mapped their own genome, developed CRISPR gene editing, created targeted viral therapies. If they've adapted those technologies as weapons. Commander. The environmental systems officer's voice was sharp with alarm. We're detecting unknown biological agents in our air filtration systems. They appear to be specifically targeted to our DNA structure. Seal all decks. Vexlar ordered. Full decontamination protocols. Too late, sir. The agent is airborne, and, sir, it's affecting the crew already. Around the command deck, several officers were beginning to show signs of distress. Their breathing labored, their movements uncoordinated. Sir, Thraz said, his voice now raspy as the agent affected his respiratory system, I recommend immediate full retreat. The humans aren't just fighting us. They're exterminating us. Vexlar stared at the tactical display where more Dominion ships were going dark or showing critical damage. The ground invasion forces that had managed to land were being overwhelmed, not just by military responses, but by waves of civilians willing to sacrifice themselves. Send the retreat signal, he finally ordered. All vessels, emergency hyperspace, jumped to rendezvous point Alpha. As the surviving ships of the Dominion fleet limped away from Earth, accelerating toward hyperspace jump points, Vexlar turned to Thraz. How? He asked simply. How did we miscalculate so severely? Thraz, struggling to maintain consciousness as the biological agent attacked his system, managed a final analysis. We mistook their capacity for compassion as weakness. We didn't understand that the same instinct that drives them to build hospitals for their children also makes them capable of transforming their entire civilization into a weapon when those children are threatened. They're not like us, Commander. They're not like anything we've encountered before. As the inevitable victory prepared for hyperspace jump, Vexlar did something unprecedented in Dominion history. He recorded a warning beacon, not a call for reinforcements, but a warning to avoid the Sol system entirely. This is Fleet Commander Vexlar of the Dominion. Earth is not to be approached under any circumstances. The species known as humans possess a quality we cannot counter. When threatened, they do not behave as rational beings. They become something else entirely. We targeted their young, believing it would break them. Instead, it transformed them. The cost of this miscalculation has been catastrophic. Avoid Earth at all costs. These humans, they do not fight to conquer. When provoked, they fight to end their enemy completely. And they have the will to succeed. As the hyperspace engines engage, Vexlar had one final thought. In all the Dominion's calculations, they had never considered that a species' greatest strength might be hidden within what appeared to be its greatest weakness. Humans didn't just care for their young. They were defined by it. And in threatening that fundamental aspect of their nature, The Dominion had awakened something that couldn't be conquered by conventional means. The remaining Dominion ships vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind a unified Earth already preparing for the possibility of their return. In the ruins of Houston Children's Medical Center, now converted into both a treatment facility and a military command post, Dr. Sarah Chen set down her communicator. The Dominion fleet was retreating. Humanity had won, though at terrible cost. "They're running," confirmed General Martinez beside her. "Your biological countermeasure worked perfectly." "Not perfectly," Sarah corrected, looking at the rows of injured children being treated in the makeshift ward. "If it were perfect, they never would have fired that first shot." "We'll be ready if they come back," the general said, "or if others come." Sarah nodded, turning back to a young patient whose broken arm she was setting. "We'll be more than ready. We'll be waiting." The child looked up at her. "Did we win, Dr. Chen?" Sarah gave him a gentle smile, the first sign of warmth in her expression since the attack had begun. "Yes, we won. And now everyone out there knows something important." "What's that?" She secured the cast before answering. "That you don't mess with Earth's children." Around the world, humanity began the process of rebuilding while simultaneously preparing for the possibility of future threats. The attack had cost them dearly, but it had also given them something they had never achieved before: unity of purpose. The stars suddenly seemed less distant, less inviting, and much more dangerous. But humanity was no longer just looking up at them in wonder. Now, they were looking up in readiness.